Hey, what's going on? This is another episode of the Bible Way Live on a Friday. Pretty much one of my emergency days. Friday on a Friday. Let's see. On the Friday, March 6th, 2026 on 6, Friday afternoon. Now we do from old to new, apply the word to you. Let's blast us off to uh, Judges chapter 15. Judges chapter number 15. Pretty much part of the story of the most famous guy in the Bible, and that is Samson. Yep. Pretty much takes up 4 chapters in the book of Judges. Yep. All right, let's get right into it. Uh, Judges chapter number 15. But it came to pass within a while after in the time of the wheat harvest that Samson visited his wife with a kid. And he said, I will go in to my wife into the chamber. For her father would not suffer him to go in. And her father said, I verily thought that thou didst utterly hated her. Therefore I gave her to thy companion, and not her younger sister, fairer than she. Take her, I pray thee, instead of her. Samson said concerning them, now shall I be more blameless than the Philistines, though I do them a displeasure. In other words, revenge. Um, Samson went and caught 300 foxes and took firebrands and turned tail to tail and put a firebrand in the midst of between the tails. And when he had set the brands on fire, he let them go into the standing corn of the Philistines and burn up both the shocks in the standing corn with the vineyards and olives. And the Philistines said, who has done this? And they answered, Samson, the son of the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he had taken his wife and had given her to his companion. The Philistines came up and burnt her and her father with fire. Revenge equals revenge. Samson said unto them, though ye have put this, yet will I avenge of you. After that I will cease. And he smote them hip to thigh with a great slaughter. And he went down and dwelt at the top of the rock of Edom. And when the Philistines went up and pitched in Judah and spread themselves in Lehi, the men of Judah said, why are ye come up against us? They answered, to bind Samson, or we will come up to do to him as he had done to us. Then 3,000 men of Judah went to the top of the rock of Edom and said to Samson, knowest thou not that the Philistines are rulers over us? What is this that thou hast done unto us? He said unto them, as they did unto me, so do I have done unto them. Revenge equals revenge. And they said unto him, we are come down to bind thee, that we may deliver thee unto the hand of the Philistines. And Samson said unto them, swear unto me that thou wilt not fall upon me yourselves. And they spake unto him, saying, no, but we will bind thee fast and deliver thee unto their hand, but surely we will not kill thee. And they bound him with 2 new cords and brought him up from the rock. And when he came unto Lehi, the Philistines shouted against them. The Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and the cords that were upon his arms became as flax and was burnt with fire, and his bands loosed from off his hands. He found a new jawbone of an ass, and put his hand and took it, and slew 1,000 men therewith. Memory verse chapter 15, verse 15. And Samson said, with a jawbone of an ass, heaps upon heaps, and with the jawbone of an ass have I slain 1,000 men. Came to pass when he had made an end of speaking, he cast away the jawbone out of his hand, called the place Ramath Lehi. He was sore athirst. He came and called on the Lord and said, "Thou hast given this great deliverance unto the hand of thy servant, and now shall I die for thirst and fall into the hand of the uncircumcised." But God claved out a hollow place that was in the jawbone, and there came out water thereout. And he had drunk, and spirit came again, and he revived. Wherefore he called the name thereof Echo Kohori, which is in Levi unto this day. He judged Israel that in the days of the Philistines 20 years. 20 years. All righty. And so Judges chapter 15. Now let's see uh, what understanding can we get out of this famous chapter from this most famous story. Okay, Judges chapter 15 summary. Judges chapter 15 continues the story of Samson and his conflict with the Philistines. Chapter shows Samson taking the revenge, being betrayed by his own people, and then defeating many Philistines with God's help. First point, Samson returns to his wife. After sometime Samson went back to visit the Philistine wife and brought a young goat as a gift. But her father refused to let him see her because he had already given her to another man, thinking Samson had rejected her. If his father offered Samson a woman's younger sister, instead saying she was even more beautiful, Samson refused and became very angry. Second point, Samson burns the Philistines' fields. To get revenge, Samson caught 300 foxes, tied their tails together in pairs with their torches between them, and released them to the Philistines' grain fields. Fires destroyed grain fields, vineyards, and olive groves. This caused major economic damage to the Philistines. Philistines retaliate. When the Philistines discovered Samson was responsible, they burned Samson's wife and his father to death. Samson responded by attacking the Philistines violently, defeating many of them after he went to live in a cave in the rock of Edom. Fourth point, Judah hands Samson over. Philistines came into the territory of Judah looking for Samson. 3,000 men from Judah confronted Samson and asked why he had brought trouble on them. And they tied Samson up and handed him over to the Philistines. But Samson made them promise not to kill him, but kill him themselves. Fifth point, Samson defeats 1,000 Philistines. When Samson came shouting toward him, the Philistines came shouting toward him, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon Samson. And the ropes bound him broke apart. He picked up a jawbone of a donkey and used it as a weapon to kill 1,000 Philistine men. After the victory, Samson named the place Ramath Lehi, meaning Jawbone Hill. um, number six, God provides water. After the battle, Samson became extremely thirsty and prayed to God for help. God responded by miraculously providing water from a hollow place, and Samson's strength returned. Key themes in Judges 15: God's power empowering of Samson despite his flaws. The ongoing conflict between Israel and the Philistines. Samson's acting as a deliverer for Israel. God responding to the prayer in time of need. Let's go a little deeper. Okay, here's a deeper meaning of Judges chapter 15. Uh, it's not just about battles, it shows how God was working through Samson to begin delivering Israel from the Philistines, even though Samson himself had serious personal flaws. Here are the deeper spiritual themes in the chapter. First point, God can use imperfect people. Perfect people. Samson was chosen by God before he was born. It's told either in Judges, told earlier in Judges, but in chapter 15, we see here he was impulsive, angry, and motivated by personal revenge. Yet God still used him to weaken Israel's enemy. Lesson: God's purposes can still move forward even though the imperfect people. Samson's strength came from God, not from his own character. Two, Israel was spiritually weak. One striking moment in the chapter is when 3,000 men from Judah tied Samson up and handed him over to the Philistines. Instead of fighting their oppressors, they were afraid of them and willing to surrender their own deliverer. Lesson: Israel had become comfortable living under Philistine control. Their spiritual courage was very low during this period. Third point, the power came from the Spirit of the Lord. When Samson killed the 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of a donkey, the Bible specifically said the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him. It showed that victory was not Samson's strength alone, but the Lord empowering him. Lesson: God's Spirit is the source of the strength and victory. Fourth point, the battle, Samson became extremely thirsty and cried out to the God for help. God answers by miraculously providing water. This moment is important because Samson recognized his dependence on God, asked for help instead of relying on himself. Lesson: even strong people must depend on God. Fifth point, Samson did not completely defeat the Philistines, but his actions began weakening them, which could later lead to Israel's deliverance. In the book of Judges, God often raised judges like Samson to rescue Israel when they were oppressed. Main spiritual message of Judges chapter 15. God can work through flawed people. Spiritual weakness among God's people can allow enemies to dominate. True strength comes from God's Spirit. Prayer brings God's help. Had to do, had to do, had to do. Okay, this is in-depth look at chapter 15. Of course, like I always say, keep it in mind. Um, you'll be all right. Keep the memory verses in mind as well. But let's move on to our final chapter on this special day, on this emergency day. We left off from the strong man to a prophet. The last book of his book, Jeremiah chapter 52. Okay, let's say from the famous strong man to a prophet. Okay, let's get right into it. Jeremiah chapter 52. Zedekiah was 120 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and his mother was named Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. But through the anger of the Lord, it came to pass in Jerusalem and Judah that he had cast them out from his presence, that Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. It came to pass in the ninth year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came he and all his army against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and built forts against it, and round about. So the city was besieged unto the 11th year of Zedekiah. In the fourth month, in the ninth day of the month, the famine was sore in the city, so that there was no bread for the people of the land. The city was broken up, and all the men of war fled and went forth out of the city by night, and by the way of the gate between the two walls, which was by the king's garden. Now the Chaldeans were by the city round about, and they went by the way of the plain. And by the way of the plain, let's cut this off. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued after the king and overtook Zedekiah in the plains of Jericho. And all his army was scattered from him. They took the king and carried him up to the king of Babylon in Riblah, in the land of Hamath, where he gave judgment upon them. The king of Babylon slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and slew also all the princes of Judah in Riblah. Then he put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and the king of Babylon bound him in chains and carried him to Babylon, and put him in prison till the day of his death. And in the fifth month, in the 10th day of the month, which was the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came, and Nebuzaradan, a captain of the guard, which served the king of Babylon unto Jerusalem. And they burned the house of the Lord and the king's house. All the houses of Jerusalem and all the houses of the great men burned with fire. And all the army of the Chaldeans that were with the captain of the guard break down all the walls of Jerusalem round about. Then Nebuchadnezzar, the captain of the guard, carried away captive certain of the poor of the people, and the residue of the people that remained in the city. Those that fell away, that fell to the king of Babylon, and the rest of the multitude. But Nebuchadnezzar and the captain of the guard left certain of the poor of the land for the wine pressers, dressers, and for the husbandmen. And the pillars of brass that were in the house of the Lord, and the bases in the brazen sea, and that was in the house of the Lord, and the Chaldean break and carried all the brass of them to the Babylon. And the cauldrons also, and the shovels, and the snuffers, and the bowls, and the spoons, and all the vessels of brass wherewith they ministered, and took them away. And the bases of the fire pans, and the bowls, and the cauldrons, and the candlesticks, and the spoons, and the cups, which was of gold and in gold, and which was of the silver. And the silver took the captain of the guard away. And the two pillars of one sea, and 12 brazen bulls that were under the bases which King Solomon had made in the house of the Lord. The brass of all these vessels were without weight. It concerned the pillars and the heights, and one pillar was 18 cubits, and the fillet of 12 cubits with it compassed it, and the thickness thereof was 4 fingers. It was hollow. The chapter of brass was upon it. The weight of one chapter was 5 cubits, and with the network of pomegranates upon the chapters round about all the brass. The second pillar were also and the pomegranates were alike of the deeds. And there were 96 pomegranates on a side, and all the pomegranates were upon the network, wherein 100 round about. The captain of the guard took Sariah, the chief priest, and Zephaniah, the second priest, and the three keepers of the door. And he took also out of the city a eunuch, which had the charge of the men of war, and 7 men of them that were near the king's a person, which were found in the city. And the principal scribe of the host, who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land that were found in the midst of the city. So Nebuchadnezzar, the captain of the guard, took them and brought them to the king of Babylon in Riblah. And the king of Babylon smote them and put them to death in Riblah, in the land of Hamath. This Judah was carried away captive out of his own land. This is the people whom Nebuchadnezzar carried away captive. In the 7th year, 3,000 Jews, and 3 and 20. In the 18th year of the Nebuchadnezzar, he carried away captive from Jerusalem 832 persons. In the 3 and 20th year of the Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar, the captain of the guard, carried away captive of the Jews 745 persons. All the persons were 460, 4.6. And it came to pass in the 7 and 20th year of the captivity of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, in the 12th month of the in the 5 and 20th day of the month, that Ever Maratha, king of Babylon, in the first year of his reign, lifted up the head of Jehoiachin of Judah, and brought him forth out of prison. Came and spake kindly unto him, and set his throne above the throne of the kings that were with him in Babylon, and changed his prison garments, and he did continually eat bread before him in all the days of his life. And for his diet there was a conditional diet, continual diet, giving him the king of Babylon. All right, in Babylon. And changed his prison garments, and did continually eat bread before him all the days of his life. And for his diet, there was a continual diet given him of the king of Babylon. Every every day a portion until the day of his death, all the days of his life. All right, the captivity that was predicted in the book of Jeremiah. Let's get to the summary and see what chapter 52 of Jeremiah was all about. Okay, Jeremiah 52, the summary and key points. Jeremiah 52 is the final chapter of the book of Jeremiah. It records the fall of Jerusalem into Babylon. And what happened afterwards, the chapter is mostly historical, summarizing events already described earlier, especially in Jeremiah 39 and 2 Kings 25. First point, Zedekiah becomes king, verses 1 through 3. Zedekiah became a king of Judah at 21. He ruled 11 years in Jerusalem. Like many kings before him, he did evil in the sight of the Lord. Because of Judah's persistent sin, God allowed Jerusalem to be overthrown. Second point, Babylon besieged Jerusalem, verses 4 through 11. Nebuchadnezzar the second, king of Babylon, laid siege on to Jerusalem. The siege lasted about 2 years. Famine became severe, and okay, I'm gonna fall asleep this time. Famine became severe in the city. Babylonian army broke through the walls. Okay, what happened to Zedekiah? He tried to escape at night, but was captured near Jericho. He was taken to Nebuchadnezzar and Riblah. His sons were executed before his eyes. Zedekiah's eyes were put out, and he was taken in chains in Babylon. So, third point, Jerusalem and the temple destroyed, verses 12 through 23. The rod led the destruction. The Babylonians burned the temple of the Lord, burned the king's palace, burned many houses in Jerusalem, tore down the city walls. They also took the temple treasures, including bronze pillars, basins, pots, and pots and utensils used by the for worship. Okay. These items were carried away to Babylon. Fourth point, people taken into exile. Verse 24 to 30. Important leaders and priests were captured and executed. Three main deportations into Babylon are listed. 7,000 people in one group, 832 people in later, 744 or 45 in another group. In total, 4,600 people mentioned here were taken into the exile, not counting the earlier. Hmm, total four. Okay, fifth point. A small sign of hope. Verses 31 to 34. Many years later, something surprising happened. Joachim, the former king of Judah, who had many. Okay, like I said, Joachim, the former king of Judah, who had been imprisoned in Babylon for 37 years, was released from prison. The new Babylonian king, evil Marduk, treated him kindly. Jehoiachin. Jehoiachin was given a seat of honor, ate regularly at the king's table, received daily allowance for the rest of his life. This ending hints that God had not completely forgotten the Lion of David, leaving hope for restoration. Main theme of more main theme topics points. Judgment for long time disobedience, tragic destruction of Jerusalem, Babylonian council. Ooh, trying to get me. Main theme of, like I said, the Babylonian exile, destruction of Jerusalem, 586 BC, judgment and a small glimmer of hope through the survival of the royal line. That's going to end it right there. Okay, that will do it. Um, like I said last time, keep in mind the summary and keep in mind like I say the main point or the um yeah keep in mind the memory verses as well. Hmm. Okay, where are we at? Where are we at? All right, like I said, that'll do it for this one. Okay, this is another episode of the Bad Boy live on a special day. One of my emergency days, emergency day Friday. That's what I get. You have a good one. Have a good weekend. I'm gone. Let me get on off before I then fall asleep even more. Yep, I'm gone.